Is Blake Fiddler a fit for the St. Louis Blues?
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, we're going to talk about Blake Fiddler. I had to save the best for last, as I believe this is the player that the Blues will select at 19th overall. So we're going to dive into what makes him such a great prospect. Also, we're going to kind of rekindle some of the things that Doug Armstrong said prior to tomorrow night's draft. And then we're going to talk about our final predictions. I have narrowed it down to 2 players. Me saying Blake Fiddler gave you a hint, so it's him and somebody else. So there is a lot that we need to talk about. I cannot believe tomorrow night is the draft. Last year, I'm sure you saw on X, I posted a picture today. I was in Las Vegas covering the St. Louis Blues, and I was able to interview Adam Rugiet, and I made it onto Getty Images, so that was kind of cool. But it was such a fantastic experience. But the way that the draft is this year, it's basically like remote in a sense, right? So for me personally, I did not find going all the way out to LA worth it, considering that we only have one first-round pick. However, next year it's going to be back in person like it was prior. So I will be going to that draft. But for this draft, I just didn't find it necessary. So I will be doing all of my coverage remotely. But that is A-okay because Blues PR is awesome and I'm able to work with them. And it's going to be a great weekend ahead. So with all of that said, let's dive into Blake Fiddler, because this is a player with a lot of potential and promise. Okay, so here are some statistics about him. Yes, this graphic might have took me 20 minutes, but he was born July 9th, 2007, and he is one of the younger players in the draft. He actually was 2 months shy of making it to the 2026 draft class, so he just made it. He is 6'4", which is very tall and a great size, 100%. Even better so, his weight being 209 pounds. He's a right-handed defenseman, which I feel like is something that we need personally. Right now, I did a lot of comparing and contrasting of different sites that do mock drafts, and a lot of them have him late first round, early second round. So it really varies. And again, I looked at 20 different mock drafts and they all varied. Some of them had him going kind of like 27th overall. And then, of course, some of the mock drafts that had him going early in the second round had him going like at 38. So again, he seems to be heading towards the end of the first round. So that's why, to me, it seems like he will still be available since the Blues are drafting 19th overall. He is the son of a former NHLer, Vernon Fiddler, who played with the Predators, the Coyotes, the Stars, and the Devils. He contributes offensively, and he's effective in transition. And this is something that we talk a lot about, with what we want to see from our players, especially our defensemen. And we want to see them being able to contribute offensively efficiently. That is the main word. It is efficient. So if we were to look at his performance in the 2024-2025 season, he played for the Edmonton Oil Kings in the WHL. He had 10 goals and 23 assists, posting 33 points total. That, for me, after 62 games, is solid for a defenseman. If it was a forward, I would have a bit of an issue with that. But considering that he is just a defenseman, that is okay with me. He has played a total of 127 games in the WAHL with 15 goals and 33 assists for 48 points after 2 seasons. So again, I'm seeing not as many goals being scored, but again, with the assists, he basically doubled what he had last season in both goals and assists. So you cannot be mad about that. So let's go talk about basically some more information about him. His size is a standout, okay? As I mentioned, he stands at 6'4". That makes him stand out amongst his draft class, especially with his great skating. He is a really strong, solid skater, and he has a great stride, obviously, because he, again, is 6'4". He has a good two-way game, great defense, great offensively. Those are the notes that scouts wrote about him. So again, that shows me that there is potential for him to be ready in a few seasons. Now, this is where he needs to work on, and this is some of the notes that the scouts had. His inconsistent decision making, especially on zone exits and puck handling under pressure. Now, that to me screams concern, okay? I want Blake to gain that confidence so he's able to make those decisions when it's critical times on the ice. And something that the Blues really struggled with last season, as we know, was letting in those last minute goals. I mean, last second goals, honestly. You cannot have a player that is going to be hesitant on those decisions. You need a player that's going to be able to be calm and composed. And I'm not asking him to be like a Colton Parayko off the bat, right? But that is an area that he needs to work in, something that scouts have noticed, which makes it apparent that this wasn't just like a one-time thing. And I don't have time to watch all of the tape on all of these prospects. But what I can say is when a scout puts that note in, hey, they're not the best under pressure, there's probably a good reasoning for that. And he also could enhance physical play and consistency. When you're standing at 6'4" and you weigh 209 pounds, you need to be physical on the ice. You need to use the body of yours. And a player that I feel like on the Blues that does that is Colton Parayko. Yes, he didn't have the best end of his season last season, but he was still able to use his body. We saw Suter use his body. We saw Tucker even use his body. You have to be physical on the ice. So I'm not discouraged that scouts said that about him. Nonetheless, I believe that he is still young and he has time to develop and to improve on that. So that for me doesn't make me nervous. He also played at the IIHF U18 World Championships. He played 7 games with 2 goals, 1 assist, so 3 points total, and he was +8. So honestly, for me, that's a win because it shows me in competitive play, he's able to hold his own. He also appeared in an exhibition and other minor league tournaments for Team USA in Canada at the U17 level. So again, he's had that experience internationally, which is something that I like. His birthday is coming up July 9th. So that's coming up soon. He was born in Nashville, as I mentioned. So I think that's a kind of a cool thing. I wonder if his favorite team growing up was the Predators because his dad did play on the Predators. So I feel like that might be something that he probably likes, and they're kind of our competition. So that'll be interesting. But other than that, I feel like overall, he's a strong two-way player, nice right shot, big in size. You can't really ask for much more in a player per se. So for me, I wouldn't be upset if the Blues drafted him. And this just seems like a player that would fit into our system very well because Doug Armstrong spoke prior to tomorrow night's draft. And what Doug had to say kind of reminded me a little bit of Blake with, I watch Blake's tapes and you can kind of pick up on character and demeanor through somebody. And I feel like I have a good read on that. So coming up next, I'm going to talk to you about what Doug Armstrong said leading up to the draft. But first, I want to tell you about my friends. and my friends are Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO and giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. One thing that I love about Monarch Money is that everything is in one place. So for me personally, I don't have to go through like a million different apps. I know I can just go to Monarch Money and everything will be there. So that makes me just feel at least more comfortable. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So, as I mentioned, Doug spoke, so let's go see what Dougie A said. Yes, I made a lot of graphics in today's episode. I'm proud of that. Like this. So, Doug Armstrong spoke prior to tomorrow night's draft. And he did not rule out, by the way, trading the 19th overall pick for a player that could contribute immediately. However, he kind of clarified to any move and basically said that he wants to sign the player long term, stating, "We won't be trading for a guy who has 1 year left unless we know 100% we can get him signed." So that to me seems like it's going to be a 90% chance that the Blues are going to keep their pick at 19 and a 10% chance that something else will happen. And the reason why I say that is that's a bold statement to make. It just kind of locks into place. And then today it was announced that Nikki Glazier will be announcing the Blues' first round draft pick. And she was wearing a Winnipeg Jets sweater. And that is something that I did not like. However, she is still a very funny comedian. So when people were like freaking out on social media, I completely understand, the Jets, 1.6 seconds. Like, yeah, I'm in pain every single day when I think about it. It definitely still hurts me. It does pain me almost every single day, though, when we talk about how the season ended. Like, I don't want to forget. However, it just kind of solidifies that the Blues will be keeping their first round draft pick, or else they wouldn't have like a celebrity like Nikki Glazier making the announcement. And again, like the NHL posted it and the Blues did. So to me, that basically gave me the clarification on what was going to happen. Again, anything can happen on draft night, and you shouldn't let the fact that Nikki Glazier is announcing your pick deteriorate a trade potentially. But to me, it just seems like the Blues will be keeping it. Anyways, Doug, and this is a quote from Doug Armstrong, "Some described to me the Holloway Broberg additions last year probably expedited our thought process by 3 years because we added 2 more guys into that age group." So last year, if you don't recall, I mean, how can you not recall? There was a double offer sheet for both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway to the Edmonton Oilers to get them here in St. Louis. And obviously, you know how that worked out. So both of the guys are here in St. Louis, and that was a ballsy move, if I do say so, that Doug put into plan and action. But yes, those guys were both young. And for me personally, I feel like that was such a smart decision that Doug had, because there's so many years left of their playing abilities. And we saw what Dylan Holloway was able to do this season prior to his injury. And I know Philip Broberg got injured during the season. But again, with Broberg, I mean, he started off the season so hot. So, yes, it did speed up that process. I mean, they weren't cheap. They definitely overpaid. But to me, it was worth it. So I don't take that as a negative by any means. So you want this team to get younger. I mean, this is not the same team that won the Stanley Cup, despite the fact that you do have some of the same players. So for me personally, I like this plan of action. And don't forget, Steiner will be taking over soon as general manager. So right now, Doug is setting up everything for Steiner for when he's going to be taking over. Anyways, there was some speculation about Joel Hofer's future. We did talk about that a lot on the Locked On Blues podcast. But Dougie A said, you're not going to get him, reinforcing the team's commitment to Joel Hofer. So Doug did say that if a team were to extend an offer sheet to Hofer, they would be overpaying significantly, so it wouldn't be worth it. And not that I'm saying that Hofer isn't worth the money, but the money that a team would have to offer him just would be way too much. So I don't think any teams would even touch that. And Doug kind of even insinuated that no team would be stupid enough to do that. Again, I feel like there's this contract negotiation, nothing too crazy. And I feel like his comments just made me feel more confident that Hofer is here to stay. So I am 99.6% sure that Joel Hofer will be wearing the blue note come next season. That small little speckle of doubt is always the what ifs. You never know. However, again, I like that Doug addressed it. He was firm about it, and he basically called everybody else in the NHL stupid if they tried anything. So for me personally, I like that about Doug. He's not afraid to call people out. Anyways, Doug talked about what he wants to kind of build with whoever they end up drafting. And he said, building a contender takes time. We have a plan, and the draft is a big part of executing it. But we're committed to being patient and smart. What was my takeaway from that? My takeaway from that comment was that if a player, let's go say, is 3 years away from being ready, it's worth the wait. When it comes to development, you don't want to rush these players too much. And I'm going to throw it to baseball, right? Because in baseball with pitchers, they take time. Now you have the guys like Paul Skeens that took no time, but a lot of pitchers have, they spend a lot of time in AAA, and then they finally get caught up later on. Same thing goes with hockey. You have to keep in mind that the guys in the draft are really about 18 years old. It's young. I am 26 now, and I think back to when I was 18, platinum blonde then, but I think back to when I was 18, and that was a completely different person. So I feel like for me, personally, that's how I took that comment, that if there is a player that he likes, right, and maybe his development will take a little bit longer, he's going to be okay with that because it's the smart move to make because the player might turn out to be fantastic. I think that you have to be strategic when you only have one pick in the first 2 rounds, and even they don't have a 3rd round. Yeah, so they don't have a lot of picks, right? So you have to be really strategic with who you're going to be taking because there's not a lot from this draft. Anyways, Doug went on and he said, it's not just about picking talent. It's about selecting players with the work ethic and mindset to grow into impact players. I want to read that last sentence to you. It's about selecting players with the work ethic and mindset to grow into impact players. That told me that a person's character is really important to Doug because they have to mesh with the rest of the locker room and the culture of the Blues, right? We look at the rebranding that the Blues had earlier this week. We think about what the blue note means to all of us. I mean, I ordered myself, this is not the hat, obviously, but today I ordered myself a brand new hat of the brand new blue note because for me personally, the blue note is my way of showing my St. Louis pride, not even being in St. Louis right now. But I'm able to meet so many other people that are from St. Louis and are Blues fans because of the blue note. The blue note is a symbol, at least to me, of the history of St. Louis. And there's a lot that I can get into on that one. However, I feel like having good culture contributes to success. And you want that. You don't want somebody who's like a prima donna. I'm sure you guys heard about the NBA draft and a bunch of players that were cussing because they got selected on teams that they didn't want to go to, or they had a very upset demeanor. It is a privilege and an honor to be drafted to a professional sports team. Even if you don't like the team or the franchise, it's an honor. So when I'm seeing all these prima donnas, I know hockey players are usually not like that as much. Some can be, but not a lot. So for me personally, I do like that Doug said that. So I'm going to give you my final predictions. But first, I have another friend to tell you about. We have a lot of friends today. All right, this is my friend Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet is the next gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet is a 3-in-1 formula and that dissolves underneath your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. You can even read real customer reviews on the website. So for men that have used it, you can hear from them directly why they like it so much. So head to rugiet.com/lockedonnhl and use code lockedonnhl to get 15% off today. That's rugiet.com/lockedonnhl and use promo code lockedonnhl for 15% off. So the time has come, my friends. The time where we talk about who we think the Blues are going to draft at 19th overall. And I have to tell you, I am a little bit nervous. Not because of anything in particular. It's just, I don't know how to even explain it. It's just like, it's one of those things, at least for me, where I guess I get so in my head about, the what ifs with the draft. But anyways, I do have a graphic that I am pulling up right now about my top 2 who I think the Blues will select. So without further ado, cue the drum roll. Okay, that was a bad drum roll. It is between Fiddler and Reschny. So for those that need a little bit of a refresher on my boy Cole Reschny, 18-year-old Canadian center from Malcolm. Currently, he is one of the top prospects in this draft. He started the season with WAHL's Victoria Royals before committing to the University of North Dakota for next season. Again, that's NCAA. He is 5'10" and he weighs 187 pounds. But again, he wants that collegiate experience so that way, he is able to play with some guys who are older than him and prepare him for the NHL. Obviously, we talked about Blake Fiddler, right-handed defenseman. So who do I think the Blues are going to select at 19th overall if both of these players are available? I think the Blues are going to go with Fiddler. However, if Fiddler's already taken, they're going to then draft Reschny. Both of these guys are such great candidates for the Blues, and they're both going to be able to offer a lot. So for me personally, these are my top 2. Last year, I predicted Adam Juracek. So I feel like there's some pressure on me now because last year I predicted who the Blues were going to draft. So this year, I feel like having a top 2 is kind of like The Bachelor, right? Where I can say I was right on both of them, but that is my prediction. It was like when I said I wanted the Blues to select Sam Dickinson last year, and then he was taken by San Jose, but he kind of fell back a little bit. My number 1 is Fiddler. Number 2 is Reschny, even though I could see Reschny going before Fiddler because, again, he does offer And he has, again, like he would fit in so well with this team too. That's why it's hard for me, but he does offer a lot of NHL potential. So again, that is what today's episode was. It was talking prospects. So I'm going to tell you what's going to go down this weekend. Tomorrow there will be an episode after we make our selection. I'll have an instant reaction short video, so I'll be filming with my phone, and then I'll be doing a full video. And then on Saturday, after we make our selection on day 2, I will do a full video as well. So a lot of draft content this weekend. Again, today's episode was a lot of fun. A lot of prep work went into today's episode with the graphics, but I'm such a visual person. So for me, I like to have basically like something visual to look at. Anyways, I will talk to you tomorrow. Probably I'll be tired like I was last year, except I won't be running around in the Las Vegas heat. And until then, like always, let's go Blues.